Hi guys, welcome to Tea with ALSA. Today we have a very special guest, SamedinaART. As you can see, her lovely painting here. Let's kick off with the painting. Tell us, what is it about?
Well, this was the first painting I did of my Albanian series, and the series focuses on different clothing from different regions, as that's a very big thing in our tradition and culture. I came across it started kind of randomly. It wasn't something I really planned and anticipated ahead of time. I came across a picture on Twitter and I just fell in love with it, and I decided I wanted to kind of paint it because I was so mesmerized by the detail and stuff. But it was a big challenge because I hadn't painted anything with so much detail before. So I did it, and then I really like how it turned out. And it got a lot of good praise. So it kind of got me thinking. I was like, oh, I should actually turn this into something. So I started looking at other regions and did my research and went from there. So this was the first one. The next one I did was Jubleta. And then I think it was Moody, and then so on. I've done quite a few. How many have I done in total? I've done over 5 in total so far of women, and then from there I just started experimenting with other type of Albanian paintings and styles and just incorporating tradition into my paintings. Well, so that's the story behind that.
I can see some great detail in this painting, and it's definitely some skill that takes to bring something to reality. And I wonder, how did you start your journey as a student to eventually university, right?
Yeah.
You studied architecture, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how did that shift occur, from architecture to arts?
Well, I always liked and I was interested in art, but I mainly stuck to pencil drawings. So I didn't do much painting. I started experimenting very randomly. So like I said, I was always into art, and then one summer I came across an artist back home, and I got to talking to him, and it just inspired me to want to try it out, because I'd never.
Was this back in Albania or in the UK?
Yeah, back in Albania, back in Shkodër there.
Okay.
And it inspired me to want to try out painting because I was just mesmerized by his work. And so I went with my mum to an art store back home actually, and I picked up some supplies, and when I came back I tried oil paints for the first time, but it went terribly because I didn't think about how to use it, and I just assumed. And I tried to do an oil painting with water, which doesn't work because they don't work together.
Yeah.
Well, so it just failed.
Right?
Yeah, it just failed. So I kind of just put everything to the side and didn't really touch paints again.
Well, seeing this level of painting right here, it's good that you didn't give up.
And then it was a good year or so after I did a painting for a friend because she found out that I could draw, and then for a birthday gift I decided I wanted to do a painting. And now that I look back at it, it's quite not so great. But it kind of pushed me to kind of attempt painting again. So then that following a couple months after, I started another one, and I started with acrylic, and I just wasn't happy with how it was turning out. So I was like, okay, let me try oil paints because I still had them. And I just did a bit of research on what I actually need to mix the oils together and how they work. And then I gave it a go, and that was when I did my first big painting, which was my Medusa piece. And that was I started at beginning of 2019, and I finished it around May because I was living away at uni at that point. So I started it during the Christmas, and I had to go back to uni, and I finished it when I came back in summer. And that was kind of this real start of me painting, because that's when I started getting a bit more consistent with it, and seeing the good feedback kind of just pushed me to want to create more, and seeing the improvement in my own art was just a push for myself, because I was oh damn, this is a lot better than the first time I tried it. This actually looks decent, and getting that positive feedback and people saying that they're interested in buying it and all this stuff was just pushed me further. So
I see quite some influence actually in this particular painting, which happens to be your bestseller, right?
Footprints, yes.
Right.
So this was the one that really kicked off my website and prints on my website.
Would you say you're going for some Mona Lisa vibes in this particular painting? Because one thing that is very ambiguous to me is whether the eyes here are open or not. So it's is he smiling or not? Is there any attention to that detail?
I didn't want her to be smiling in it. That's one thing I didn't want. I wanted her to have a very authentic expression, which wasn't happy.
Very conservative, right?
Very conservative, and back in the day, you'd see a lot of brides weren't, when they got married, it wasn't as much a joyous thing as it was. It wasn't shown as that, like,
right.
Even today, like when you go and get the bride, it's a very emotional time. They're not smiling and happy and ecstatic. So I wanted to kind of portray that.
It does feel modern at the same time, though.
Yeah, I've brightened it up with the colours 100%. The background and all that. So I always put a little twist on the paintings I do. So if I use a reference, I like to enhance them a bit more, because I don't want it to just be exactly like the photo, because then you can just print off the photo.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, 100%. I was gonna ask. So obviously you do like traditional Albanian style painting. Now, obviously
that's not it.
But that's not it.
No, I don't just do that. I didn't start with Albanian traditional paintings.
Okay, cool.
I get inspired from a lot of things, so that's just one aspect of my art.
Right.
So this is just a series.
Yeah, just a series.
Because I wanted to ask, is it something that you focus specifically on, or you do other things? So
no, I do other things. This Albanian painting started like a year into my painting.
Right.
So I've been painting now for like 2.5 years, and these Albanian paintings started last summer. So it was quite into my painting
career.
Yeah. No, I paint a lot of other things. I still like to experiment, because I don't think I have a set style. So I'm all about experimenting, trying different mediums, styles, because I am still learning myself, and everything is self-taught. So I'm just taking it as I go, seeing what I can learn, what works with me, what I like, what I don't like. So yeah.
Do you look at different artists, like in terms of you get inspiration from them and try to incorporate it?
You must do.
Yes, I don't try and copy or use anyone's work unless I'm doing like a study where I'm just not planning.
That's fine. Yeah.
Practicing.
Practicing.
That's the word.
Yeah, that's right.
Where I'm just practicing. So I think it's good to look at other artists' work. But I found that I like a lot more artists that I find through social media than more so famous artists, because I follow a lot of artists on social media and stuff, and I keep up to date with more their work than big artist names personally. But yeah.
Well, honestly, I'm just obsessed with the level of detail, especially in the necklace. So there's a lot of energy literally coming out of it.
Yeah.
And I can sense a lot of balance when it comes to the blue as well. Well, by the way, I can talk a bit of painting jargon here, because little facts, I did go to painting school when I was a kid, and I managed to somehow have one of my paintings exhibited.
I don't have one of these.
Obviously,
we're talking to the big boys here.
I'm showing off the diploma here when I was 7, because if I bring the actual picture of painting, it would be completely dishonest.
It would just be too mad. Like the levels would just be over 9,000.
No, truly, this is outstanding. I have to say, it just feels like some sort of photograph to some extent. It's amazing work. And you said it's just been 2.5 years you've started painting. So.
Yeah, that's how long I've been oil painting for.
That's amazing.
So,
do you do any different types of painting?
I played around with acrylic, but I'm not a big fan of it personally, because it dries a lot faster and doesn't give me enough time to work, especially with detailed pieces like this. I do use it sometimes when I'm doing more of an abstract piece.
Sure.
I've also started getting into digital work a bit recently.
Nice.
So I like to do a bit of that as well, but that's something that I'm still like growing to, because I just got an iPad last year. Fair. So I'm playing around with that as well a bit. And
obviously you said the acrylics, they dry quickly. So I'm just thinking with the oil paintings, they must take quite a lot of time in terms of the different layers and applying all the colours.
For example, one layer can take, depending on the brand of paints as well, so it all varies. It can take like a good week to dry a layer.
Right. Wow.
So it's a long process with oil paintings.
Where do you hang them? Like just in...
I have a studio now, so I'm very lucky that I can just kind of leave them to dry there. But before I was working in like my tiny room, so it was very difficult.
Yeah.
Because I literally have the smallest room. My brother unfortunately got the bigger one.
Ah.
Exactly.
Is what it is.
I know. So it was very difficult until like I got a little studio in the back garden. So now I've got my own space and I don't need to deal with the fumes and anything.
Yeah, no, amazing. That's really good.
It's good that you're also exploring business as well through your own art, because nowadays everything is just getting more and more transactional. So it's quite impressive actually that a piece like this actually sells for a good price of £175, I heard.
Yeah, that's what this piece is. But my prices vary depending on the like painting, the time, the meaning, the like everything about it. So I try like, because I'm still quite new to the whole career in art, I do have a bit of like my prices fluctuate a lot.
Sure.
So it's
you have to be aware of the market as
well.
well.
Yeah, of course.
So was that something that triggered your interest into, having your art merchandised as well, or did you just come up with it like randomly?
When I started painting, it was never like I'm painting to turn this into a career or I'm painting to earn lots of money. That's not how I started. I started because it was just a hobby and I enjoyed it, and it was something that I could do in my free time. And like whilst I was studying, I kind of felt a bit less guilty if I was like watching Netflix and painting rather than just watching Netflix.
Right.
So it became like a hobby that I was doing in my free time, especially whilst I was at uni.
Well, it's good to have a hobby that, now is makes some good money, right?
Exactly. So it kind of fell into my lap, and it was like a shame not to nurture it because I had people reaching out like, oh, do you do prints? And it took me a while to kind of actually start a website and decide I want to do this, because I was very nervous about like turning things into prints and not having anyone buy anything.
Right.
So.
Well, there's always a process to it, and
so it seems like a long process.
You've endured quite well into.
Yeah, I've been very lucky until now, like with it.
Are you surprised by maybe how quickly or like the manner in which you've been able to monetize your work?
Yes, I am, because when I started my website, it was very slow, and that was before I dropped my first Albanian painting. Sure. And I would 100% say that when I dropped my Albanian series and paintings, that's when my like website took off, because I had way more people viewing it and way more people interested in it, and that kind of took off for my Albanian series. But then it meant people were looking at my other work as well, because they were on my website too. Right. So I got very lucky in that sense. And when that started to take off, it was a big like surprise to me, because I went from like starting my website to getting maybe like 2 print sales like a month when I just started, to getting like over 50, and it was in like a couple of days, and it was like, whoa, like people actually really like my work. So it was a big like push and motivation for me as well to just create more content and stuff. Right.
This happened during university.
Yes.
So you must have been thinking, maybe this architecture course isn't for me. I should start selling paintings.
It was like, it made me realize that I want to kind of explore both things, and it put me in limbo, like which one do I want to explore more right now?
Right. How does then your art kind of intersect with your degree? Or maybe it doesn't.
Good question.
It doesn't. It depends what side of architecture you're looking at. Because the like technical stuff, there's absolutely no link. The only like link is maybe just like eyeballing sizes and stuff like that for reference.
Right. Sure.
So I could like eyeball and be like, okay, this painting would be too big for this room or something like that. So very minimal interlinking there. But it does come in handy, I think, if you're looking more at interior architecture, because through art, it's not just the painting. Like I know what colours complement each other and just what certain things work better. So it links in that way. So if I was to like design a house and work on the interior, I'd have a better idea of like what colours are going to work better together, what looks good here, what looks bad here.
Just to let the listeners in on something, Samedina sort of did an interior design in our studio, commenting on the lighting and this and that. So I'd say, depending on
some good constructive criticism going through,
constructive. Some of it cutting, but most constructive. Yeah. So,
but it is great to have an artist's eye, in our studio, and we do appreciate all the comments earlier.
Yes, all the comments.
So, where do you see this hobby / business evolving in the near future, and let's say even in 10 years' time? do you see something like mentoring from your side? You know, kind of lecturing arts, or like, do you see yourself as an academic, or at least, you know, sharing your talent with
Definitely not
younger audiences? Or
definitely not an academic. I don't really see myself lecturing and stuff, but I do see myself growing my art and just producing more and doing bigger things with my art and trying to like give back, but not in like an not me teaching art kind of way.
Like
giving back in a
someone might come to you and
way.
be like, "Yo, this is great. You know, I just want to know your trade better." Would you be the kind of...
Yeah, I'm always like, I get people messaging me. I've had people message me and ask for advice and stuff, and I'm always happy to like respond with like, if they ask like, oh, I want to get into this, how do you have any advice and stuff? But I do find it hard for me to give advice because a lot of my work I kind of just self-taught and I winged it. Like I'm still winging it now. So like I've never taken a lesson myself.
It's tough for you to talk about it. Like
yeah,
what you
so
did.
I feel like if an art teacher came, they'd probably be like, you're doing this completely wrong. But it works for me, so I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Well.
So like technically, I don't even know if I'm doing it right myself.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point that she just made. Like, she's not looking for validation from, let's say, professionals in the art world.
Yeah.
But
I suppose with all creatives, there is a kind of sense of kind of like imposter syndrome, where you maybe in the early stages of creating, you might feel like, oh, am I doing this wrong? Do I, deserve to do this, something like that? Like,
but I think that's something that you can argue with a lot, because I feel like some people see art and like, okay, this is wrong, this isn't. Like I've seen videos of stuff of people like evaluating art and stuff, and like they'll be very picky with stuff, but then you can always argue that art can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, well,
you get the people who put a dot on a canvas and they sell it for millions.
That's the joke, right? If someone looks at like a banana in a museum, it's like, this is about £7.5 million, this one.
So like, I feel like it all depends on the person, so you can really argue anyway with it.
What do you think then, like, your art kind of represents for you personally as a creative? Like, what does it mean to you?
It depends what pieces I'm working at, I think, because every piece kind of means something different. Like, obviously, the Albania series is a big part because that's where I'm from. So it's a big part of me and my own heritage. Not every single one, because it explores each different region. Sure. I'm not from everywhere.
Sure.
So, but it's my way of kind of like keeping in touch with it, because I don't just paint around a picture. I actually research the clothing, the area and stuff, so it's like a nice way for me to even like get a little history lesson in myself.
Right. You're actively engaging with the culture.
And I like to put my own twist on it with like adding brighter colours and whatnot. So a lot of the time I'll like completely change a background to what I originally see, because I just prefer it and it's a bit more me, and I make things work for me. If that means like making something more simple or making something more intricate, it always varies. But I just like to put my own twist on it. So it's just my way of kind of like...
You're expressing yourself in
literally.
The paintings.
I think that's like, as cliche as it sounds, that's the whole point of art, is to express yourself in some way.
Well, if you happen to express yourself in such a way that impresses other people, it's great. I think you've done a great job, and it's quite nice to see that there's a lot of talent that you're willing to not just keep for yourself, because there's a lot of, not just Albanians, but people our age, so youngsters, they have a lot of talent which is, let's say, unchallenged and unexposed. So it's great to see that you're out there and not just keeping it for yourself and like making sure that you are happy with it. But something like this is quite eye-pleasing, to say the least.
Yeah, and I think in terms of you were saying about young people, like, I think now, especially after the pandemic, in this economy, everyone is looking at their own self and they're like, well, how can I kind of, showcase my own skills and kind of be my own boss, and especially those ones who are creative. So I wonder if you had kind of, from your experience, any advice to give these young people in terms of just starting out, or what would you suggest?
I think the main thing is to actually just start, because I know when it came to myself, I put off starting a website for a long time because I was scared of like it just not being worth it, because I have to pay to start a website, and I was like, I've got to invest into this, even though it wasn't a crazy investment. I still had to invest into it, and I'm a student.
Yeah.
So it was. Did
you design it yourself?
I had a little help from my brother, but he helped me like when I first launched it, just to kind of figure it out, because he had a bit more experience in that industry and the whole like business side of things, which I didn't. But after that, I kind of just did it myself. So when I change it now, I change it myself. But my website, even to this day, is very basic, standard, and I'm fine with that because it does what it needs to do.
It's just a showcase.
Exactly,
right?
it does what it needs to do and it gets the job done. So I'm not. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But my biggest advice is just start and just keep consistent with it. If you're trying to like learn something, then you need to. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it, and that's the main thing I've like learned from what I do. For me, when I was studying and stuff, the time my business was most successful was when I got a break from uni. So during the holidays and stuff, because I had more time to put into it. When I had exam season and all that, I couldn't put a lot into it because I had to focus on school. So you could see what's the word?
What is the word?
What is the word?
The progress, we'll help you out here.
When something goes like this.
The ups and downs. It's just ups and downs, yeah.
No, it's not ups and downs.
Fluctuations, turbulence.
Something like that.
Okay.
Oscillations,
That's a great word. Oscillations.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Of my business. So my biggest advice is just keep it consistent and don't be set back by if something doesn't go well, especially if you're in a creative field, because it's always up and down. There's not a consistent unless you're like up, there's not a consistent price. So don't accept, because I can have like a really great month or I could get 0 or 1 sale a month. So it really varies. So you got to be open to the fact that it's not going to be something that's steady and set. Like you got to be open to that fluctuation of income, of business, of everything.
Yeah.
So do you reckon it'll take you some time to expand your business so that it doesn't just remain to the point where it just sells, let's say, 1 or 2 pieces a month and then just booms the next month? And do you reckon there's some methods that you're thinking about at the moment that will stabilize your business and make sure that you get regular cash flow?
Yeah, the main one is, like I said, consistency. For me, there was a huge fluctuations based on the fact that I was
by asking this question,
studying.
There's another element. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah,
do you study the business side as well as the art side? So do you study like, okay, this month this piece sold very well, next month something else sells better? Like, do you make sort of analysis of what is going on?
When I started, no, because I didn't really plan or anticipate anything. But as I've like grown and my audience has grown, I do pay more attention to that. So when I post something that is new, I kind of need to see how it works, and now I've like learned to gauge a bit like, okay, like I know that if there's certain things I know that, okay, this will do well because it's part of this series, or this something similar has done well before, or I know that this might not do well, or sometimes I'm completely wrong, there's paintings and works that I posted that I've been like, okay, this is great in my eyes and this is going to do amazing, and it's done not great. Or there's stuff that I've done that's been really quick and I was like, I'm just posting it because I'm sharing something I created, but it didn't take me long, it didn't take a lot of time and whatnot, and it's done like great. So it's something that I've started to pick up on, but I'm still learning myself.
Right.
So it's everything I do is like an ongoing lesson for me.
It's good that you at least are aware of the whole scene behind.
I need to be now. I have no choice.
Yeah.
Especially if I want it to grow, because I feel like it's something that kind of fell into my hands. So it's a shame to not nurture it and try and build it and grow.
But I was just going to add that it's fascinating that you are aware of what is going on in your arts hobby / business, because it definitely makes quite a good standard of, helping you get to the next level, which I bet you were looking towards in terms of sales, in terms of expanding your collections as well. Why not?
Yeah. That's a good point, because some people can be like completely oblivious as to like what they're kind of the people that they're selling to want. I mean, especially take for example like Virgil Abloh, and I'm just going to name drop him. I'm sorry. Like this guy, right? He got all of his followers, and literally, like I remember when he designed the Pop Smoke album when he died.
Oh, it was terrible.
It was literally, he just went, was it even Photoshop?
Terrible.
Was it even Photoshop? I don't know. He just
album cover
put,
was terrible.
like, awful.
I don't remember what it was, but I remember looking at it and being like, it was terrible. And it was at the time where people were where they like asked for fans and stuff to submit their own cover arts and stuff, and there were some really good ones. So it was like a shame to see such, can I say shit?
Oh.
Yeah, go for it.
She said it.
Go for it.
Such a shit cover be picked just because of just because of the person who created it.
Yeah. No, exactly. And it's, I suppose part of it is like when you get to a certain level, you don't want your head to be like up in the clouds, like, and just like in terms of like, authenticity, I think we spoke a little bit about kind of artists who maybe don't connect with the people that they're drawing for, or maybe what they're drawing for themselves. So how do you manage to kind of keep that kind of like sense of authenticity in your work?
I try to like gauge what the people who followed me for my art like, but while still doing what I want to do, because it started as a hobby and I don't want it to become something where I'm doing it for other people solely.
Right.
Because I do commissions and that's 100% for other people.
Sure.
So if someone wants to come be like, oh, I want this and this and this, then request a commission from me. But if I'm going to do something that is an original piece of art, then it's kind of like if you like it, great. If you don't, then I did this for me, and you liking it is just a bonus on top of that. So I guess with the whole commission and original, it gives that option for you to if a client or whatever customer, someone in my audience wants something specific, then they can go through that route. If you're following me for my art because you just like my authenticity and what I create, then you've got my original work and it is what it is. You know, that's for me to decide. Yeah. So I think it's that kind of like balance.
No, 100%. We're going to ask a question from one of your fans. But before I do, like, what is it like to have fans?
I don't have any.
Are you sure?
Yes, she knows.
How many followers have you got on
So you
Instagram?
got quite a few.
A few.
Yeah.
A few, you know.
She's still humble.
You know. Everyone knows.
I have 10,000, but they're not fans.
What are they?
Followers.
Followers.
People who just like my content, I'm going to assume.
Sounds like fans to me. But
I don't like the word fans.
Why not?
I don't know, because I feel when I think fans, I think of like a celebrity.
Okay.
And that's obviously not what we're here for.
Sure enough. Would you ever want to be a celebrity, or is that just, it's not for you?
Not for me.
low key all the time.
Not for me. Like, I post my stuff and stuff, I post my work and stuff, but the whole like personal invasion stuff is not for me.
Right, yeah, sure. So then what would you like sort of this to be kind of, if not celebrity, then what would you like this to kind of become in, say,
just
5 years, 10 years, wherever?
Just to be known for my creativity and like my work rather than myself personally, because that's for me.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. So you don't want your personal life to be...
Not really.
So
like, obviously it comes across naturally because I'm sharing my work. So there is a percentage of my personal self that gets shared. But I'm not here to share like the ins and outs of my life.
Sure. So Samedina,
if you can gauge that from something I paint, then that's something completely different, but not like here to talk.
Yeah, so Samedina the brand and then Samedina the individual are two completely separate entities for you.
Well, that's a really good way of going about it, especially if you want to distantiate yourself from the brand and sort of investing in it, but at the same time maintaining your own boundary as an individual.
Because I'm selling my work, not myself.
Exactly.
Even though it's me who's creating, so it's like a little percentage.
Sure.
But I want to keep that like separate.
100%. And ultimately you want control over your image, especially in this day and age where just everybody's stuff is online now. So yeah.
Great.
I forgot to ask the fan question. I know, I'm sorry, I'll stop saying it. But they were asking, what is your favourite piece that you've done?
I'd say I have 2 to 3 favourite pieces. This being one, because this was the first Albanian piece I did and it just means a lot to me because I kind of like started that.
Sure.
I have another one which is my Ajak painting, which is this. It was one of my, no, it wasn't my first. It was like my second like big painting, but it was the first one I did when I was like, first like big painting I did whilst I was away at uni, and it like took a lot of effort. Like I did it from like my bedroom floor and everything. So it's like, and it turned out for me, I love it. I love the colors on it. It's like, I don't know if you can edit it so you can like insert an image of it so people know which one I'm talking about. So it probably makes a bit more sense.
We'll have it like flash up there.
So it makes a bit more sense. But that's one that I really like too. And then also the first big painting I did, which was my Medusa one, because it's just sentimental. I think my favorite paintings come from the meaning behind the like time they were created more than along with the actual and how they turned out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But a big part of why certain paintings are my favorite is because of like where I was at when I painted them and how it went after. Yeah.
So, I wanted to actually quickly kind of run it back because we had a little break.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously your degree in architecture.
Yes.
What lessons did you take for that? Because I think sometimes when we kind of pivot from one kind of industry to another, we might think to ourselves, oh, well, not that was a waste of time, but it's like it doesn't necessarily apply. But if there's any lessons that you think you learned now from your time at university, from your time doing architecture, what do you think they would be?
I feel like what I learned for my degree in architecture doesn't really interlock with what I've learned for my art unless I was incorporating the business sides of both things. But in terms of the stuff I learned in architecture and stuff I learned in art, it doesn't really link. At least I haven't found that yet. For me, like, yeah.
Do you feel like there's any lessons?
No, I find it hard to answer just because one, I'm not finished with my full architecture degree.
Sure.
So I've only done my undergrad, and I was a COVID student, unfortunately, so I had to do most of it at home. That
must have been useful for you because you were just
because this isn't good. This isn't good advice, but I'd listen to lectures whilst working. Yeah. So that was like a benefit.
Hey, listen, at least you were listening.
Exactly.
Sometimes I go to classes
whilst doing
yeah, exactly.
You know, so
don't do that.
Good advice.
Stay cool, kids. Don't do drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I haven't found that there's been much link in terms of lessons yet, unless I'm looking at if I was to open like an architecture business or something.
That's fair.
But that's the business related.
Sure.
I'm going to be very unorthodox by asking this question at this stage of the interview. What is your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is probably like yellow and orange.
Right.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Is there a specific code? Like, I swear, there's like a hashtag, whatever code to that particular nuance that you are.
Oh no, I don't have the specific shade that I'm like.
Because personally, I'm big on orange. Like, I'd say it's one of my favorite colors.
You're both orange.
As in, although green as well resonates quite a lot.
No, I like green, man. I like. Do you know specifically this color green?
That's a nice green.
I loved it. I like just
very
emerald.
Yeah. No, it's always been yellow and like orange. I think it's just because they felt more like happier and brighter to me.
Vibrant, yeah.
Because I've liked them since I was like younger, so they've stuck. But I'm also very into like pastels and stuff. But my favorite color doesn't resonate with like my favorite color if I was like creating something or designing something.
Right.
That's like a personal favorite color.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Who's your favorite artist?
My favorite artist would be Fabian Perez. He's one like I've always liked his work, and I came across him if local to us in Kingston. There's in the Bentals. There's a little like store where gallery to buy art.
Did he happen to be there personally as well? Or?
No, I was supposed to meet him one time, but then I didn't because something came up and I couldn't go to his signing in the gallery when I was at uni because I think it was a lecture which I couldn't miss. So it was really annoying because he was only there one day. But I just love his work. I love the tones of his work and the feel it like gives. I don't know his exact age, but he's definitely like in his like 50s.
Oh, that's fine. At least he won't die in the next few years, so you'll get to meet him eventually.
Wow.
What a way to turn it.
Yeah. Apologies if that is sensitive.
I don't know.
Cheers to him not dying anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, if you're listening, Fabian, better stay alive. Better stay alive.
I need to meet you.
Meet Samedina sometime.
Yeah, exactly.
Collaboration?
Yeah.
Well, it's truly good to have influences, of course, and bring your own twist to what you want to come up with. And of course, it's difficult to be completely authentic and not take a bit there and here and sort of adapt and adjust your own construct as well sometimes. And I definitely think that you're doing it in the best way possible because is definitely something, especially in this painting that we have here. But also, please check out more of Samedina's pictures in her website, right?
SamedinaART.com.
Yeah, that's it.
Do I
Lovely
need to spell
plug.
that out?
We can sort it out.
SamedinaART.com.
Thank you.
Yeah, gotcha.
So yeah, it's truly very authentic, and I just think that you're doing a great job. So
Thank you.
it would be quite nice for our audience to express some gratitude by checking also, why not, Samedina's Instagram page as well as the website.
We could ask one more question.
Right.
So obviously, Nate cooked me a lovely salmon dish, and obviously Nate's an artist.
Tone it down.
Well, you two are competing now.
No.
I'm gonna do another self plug.
A little birdie on the
Dinner.
a little birdie on the grapevine has told me that you might be involving yourself in that field, in the field of cooking.
Yeah, I do enjoy cooking. It's like another hobby which I enjoy. But the only people that reap the benefits of that is my parents and my brother.
Okay, all right. Will anybody else be reaping the benefits anytime soon?
Hopefully, it's something that I want to look at in the future, but that's not my main focus right now.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
that's kind of like my retirement plan. We got some
The
time.
retirement plan. All right, cool.
Delivery of burek to your own houses for New Year's.
Samedina
In the
eats.
making.
No, it's cooking with dinner. As in Dina, but dinner.
What the? And I thought I was good at puns. What?
Yeah,
Never mind.
fair play.
Well, that's great. Definitely some good content coming from ALSA linked to cooking. Thanks to Samedina, hopefully, if she agrees to our terms and agreement.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah,
the
it's
contract.
It's definitely good to have quite a talent in our show that doesn't just show her art through painting, but also through cooking. And hopefully we'll see some projects coming up